I'm over it now. You know what I mean? If I have to hear one more person go, Casino Royale.
It's the Poker News Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 932 of the Poker News Podcast, the final episode of 2025. Actually, as we're recording it, it's not going to come out until New Year's Day, but it's a good opportunity for us to recap the top 10 stories from the past year. I'm Chad Holloway, joined by Mike Holtz at Level 9 Studio. Mike, it's just you and I again for the second week in a row. Ben Ludlow still in London, but we'll be back next week, I think.
Yeah, I think he's in Soho eating Chinese food. I'm not 100% sure, but...
well, it's going to be fun. We get to take a look back at the past year, top 10 stories as presented by Poker News. Not you and I, because I think, Mike, you and I might have chosen a little bit different order at least, or maybe some different stories. But I think overall, the top 10 list, as I sent to you, is pretty solid.
Yeah, I think it is too. And I'll say this, Ben Ludlow just texted me and said he is actually eating Chinese food. He's at Liho Fuchs in Soho.
There you have it. All right, let's start with story number 10 on Poker News. Now, you can go to pokernews.com and read the articles on all of these, much more in-depth than what we're going to talk about here on the podcast. But story number 10 was the cheating technology fear rises amongst the poker community, right? So you had real-time assistants, mark cards, you had the cheating, swapping out RFID stuff. Remember that whole Joker Stars poker room in Texas? There was the former employee caught using RFID technology.
Sure, yeah.
So that was a big one. Then you had the journalist who was from Wired. He did a video called, quote, "I cheated at poker by hacking a casino card shuffling machine." And you got almost 1 million views on this video showing them hacking a machine and cheating at poker in a controlled environment. They didn't actually go and do it, but it just opened the eyes like, damn. And plus you had all these other cheating scandals we wrote about. I don't know, Mike, what do you make of cheating and especially cheating technology from 2025?
It is the single biggest, I think, well, I was going to say single biggest. No, it's not. Taxes is, but it's right now the single biggest threat to the sanctity of poker and the future of poker is cheating and things of that nature. As AI, as computers get more advanced, it's easier. Yeah, and the less we rely on humans, the easier it's going to be to digitally get involved with the things. You know, you plug something into the shuffle mate and you can, or the deck mate, and you can just get it to have whatever outputs you want. There's USB attachments on all of them, I think, and you could literally plug it into the casino. Now you're going to get caught most likely, but the fact that that's possible to do is very, very frightening.
Yeah, I think it's scary. Like I don't play online, I guess, really ever, because the only way I'd feel comfortable doing it is in like in a regulated environment or site. I know you play a lot more online, but I know I share cheating suspicions or fears, and I know a lot of the players, my circles do as well when it comes to online. But now you're seeing it in the live environment too, and it's just like, damn, is nothing sacred? You even seen it, like we're going to talk about it in another story later on in this episode, but like the NBA cheating,
sure,
live cheating games and stuff. So agreed with you, Mike, that this is a very serious situation and an existential threat, if you will, to poker, and operators, casinos, and players need to continue to crack down. And, for our part, like on a show like this, I think it's also important to shed light on those who may commit transgressions, if you will, so that at least others can be forewarned.
Sure, and there's a lot of things that we as players and operators especially can do that can mitigate cheating. And I know I saw, I don't know if, I think it was EPT, maybe it was EPT, I don't want to misquote, but they had the they would take the deck and they would put it in almost like a blackjack like thing, and then they would deal it out like this. You can't see the cards, you know what I mean? There's no way someone could have any technology to read it. They're not using an electronic shuffler. They're shuffling by hand, and then no way for any of the cards to be exposed. They can't have any electronics to see it because the cards aren't being lifted off at all. So I think things like that can help. And then also operators working with sites like GTO Wizard as far as online, and just generally policing players they find are suspicious, making them videotape their entire sessions to make sure that things are lining up, making sure their mouse clicks are accurate. Because, I mean, it's like if, let's say, and maybe I'm getting a little off track here, but just to give you an example of what you can do as an operator, if let's say you wanted to see if I was cheating, right? When I'm playing, I'm like randomly clicking in a bunch of spots. I have like a pattern. If I was playing on someone else's account, I would be clicking a bunch too. You know what I mean? You see me, you could easily tell if that's somebody else playing on the account, having thousands of hours logged in. Oh, there's a bunch. You know what I mean? There's certain patterns.
Right.
There's all sorts of things that we can do, that operators can do to help with the cheating.
Right. Well, let's go to story number 9, which I think if you were ranking it might make it the number 1 story and the other big existential threat to poker right now. And that is the poker tax bill that was snuck into the Trump's big beautiful bill, kind of like the UGIEA was snuck in back in 2006 into the Port Authority bill. This one was basically capping what professionals and even recreational, like what you can write off on gambling losses. You can only do 90% instead of 100%. There was hope going in because Representative Dina Titus out of Nevada was working diligently to try to get this overturned in some fashion in the Ways and Means Committee by the end of the year, but that didn't happen. It is going to take effect. It is, as you're watching this, now in effect. It is 2026. And I don't know if there's a resolution in sight for this. It probably is going to be at least in effect for 2026 if it doesn't get interned, if not in perpetuity. I don't know. Mike, I know this is something you're very worried about.
Yeah, and the thing is this, right? This is a 5-alarm fire, and most people are not acting like it is. There's some people on Twitter who are. In my opinion, this is easily the number 1 story of the year. You're talking about the entire industry being only able to write off 90% of your losses, which for the viewer, let's say you have $1 million in buy-ins, and you break even for the year, you cash for $1 million. Under the former system, you would owe no money because you didn't make money. You didn't lose money. Why would you be taxed on that? Now you're taxed on $100,000 of income. Okay, you now owe the government $27,000, $23,000, $18,000, whatever your tax bracket is. You now owe that to the government, and to me, that is absolutely crazy. And it makes it so that players who were break even or slightly winning before now can no longer play, which makes the players who are winning a lot now not win enough to be able to take care of that either. It makes recreational players only be able to write off 90% of the losses. It's one of those things where right off the bat, you're not going to see too much of a volume decrease except for from the professionals. But the ripple effects, if you allow this to stay in, the ripple effects once people get to tax season are going to be tremendous. You're going to have people who are no longer going to qualify for child tax credits. You have people who are no longer, who are literally going to look at their tax bill and go, whoa, what are we talking about here? I didn't win any money at all. What are you talking about? I lost money on the year. And they owe $75,000 and they're a school teacher. You know what I mean? This is it effectively, if you're actually looking from it from a standpoint of I want to make money from poker, this is a killer of the game.
Yeah, it is a 5-alarm fire, like you said. Eric Seidel is one of the big names who's come out basically saying this will force him into some sort of semi-retirement, if you will, that he said, he told Poker News, quote, "I expect that I'll be playing much smaller if I play next year. I might play some WPT 3Ks or something, which I generally don't play except for Florida. I'll still play the main event, but I would imagine I'm probably going to spend maybe 10 or 15% of what I normally do for buy-ins. I don't expect I'll be playing many 10Ks or higher. No high rollers for sure." Yeah, this is not good, especially in the U.S. You might see some of like the foreign players who don't have to worry about U.S. taxes. They'll stop playing in the U.S., but you might see, Tritons or European events kind of get a little bump. But for those of us in the States, this fucking sucks.
No, it's horrendous. It doesn't. It's one of those things where it just doesn't make any sense, right? Like from a standpoint of why does that exist? Why are we being taxed on income we didn't make? Why is poker, to me, look, prediction markets, the president of the United States just said that prediction markets are a way to find the truth. Prediction markets are gambling. 100%. The president's already said poker is considered more gambling than prediction markets, than sports betting? What's going on here? Can we not just be a mainstream thing? Can poker just not be something that educated people know that they're in the same way that sports betting or prediction markets, which I think are cancerous in themselves, the same way poker is the least cancerous of all of them by miles. It's a way, people are making a living. It's fun. You do it with your family and friends. You can do it for small stakes. We're all adults here, right? We can't just play a little poker.
No. I have a feeling that this story, one way or the other, for better or worse, is going to be on the 2026 top 10 stories. Because if it does get overturned, great. It's going to be a great story. If it doesn't, it's going to be a terrible story. And like Mike, you said, come next year's tax season, people are going to realize just how bad this, is going to be for them.
You can currently bet on it right now to see if it's going to be repealed in 2026, and I don't believe the odds are very good. I think it's like 8% or 10% or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but it's not good.
Yeah. Well, let's go to story number 8. We hinted at it in last week's episode when we talked about the epic Eric Wasserson slow rolling of aces against Benny Glaser. He, took it in stride, finished 10th place, bubbled that WSOP super main event in the Bahamas, but it was a good cherry on top for Benny, who had a summer for the ages where he won 3 gold bracelet events, $1,500 dealer's choice, $1,500 mixed PLO 8 or better, and a $2,500 mixed triple draw low ball. You don't see people winning 3 bracelets in a summer very often. I know Scott Seaver did the summer before, but aside from that, it's only been done on a handful of occasions. Yeah, I mean, and then Benny didn't win Player of the Year. Sean Deeb ended up getting that because of the way the formula is structured. But I don't know, even still, Benny this summer, Mike, right? Big story.
Yeah, sure. And I'm in my opinion, I think Benny's was better than Sean's, but I think that Mizrachi's was better than both of theirs. So there's that. But yeah, Benny had an amazing year. 3 bracelets is crazy. The guys, I mean, I don't know. If I had to bet on who's going to have the most bracelets come 2060, I think Benny Glaser might be the favorite.
Yeah, he absolutely crushed it. I remember I was actually at
Glaser.
Who sorry, Benny. Yeah, I'm going to mess that up for the rest of my career.
Benny G. That's that boy Benny G.
Benny G. I was down I took a break from the WSOP. I went out there, I helped set up, I was there for a few days, and then I went to Tennessee to participate in a live reality game, Surviving Real Foot, where I was away from electronics for 8 days in the woods, sleeping on the ground, all that jazz. And I'll never forget, when I was out of the game, get my phone back, I got to get caught up on the WSOP, and Benny had won 2 bracelets within the first week or whatever it was of the WSOP, and it's just like, oh, damn. And so see him win a third, weeks later wasn't that big of a surprise. And I don't know, just I like Benny. I'm a fan. We talked about the slow roll at WSOP Paradise last episode. Go back and check that out. But congratulations to him. I'm sure we're going to see him capture a lot more bracelets in his career. Story number 7, Mike, was basically women in poker in 2025, because there were a lot of great stories. Foremost among them for me, Leo Margetts, the first women to make the WSOP main event final table since Barbara Enright did it 30 years earlier in 1995.
Yeah, cool stuff. Good for Leo. She's obviously had great success in the main. And go women.
Sheena Akamoto, she was another one, WSOP ladies event champ, defended her title after finishing second the year before, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I messaged her to try to see if she could come on the podcast, and she was like, I don't speak English that well, so that didn't go well, but good for her. She's a freaking crusher, man. She's unbelievable.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how she does in the ladies event next year. There was Zhuan Liu, who I'm a big fan of. She became the first ever female winner of a Triton event. So that was another big story. And then you had Jennifer Shahad, PokerStars ambassador, chess master, going deep in the NAPT main event. She made the final table there. So I feel like there was just all these great women's storylines throughout 2025.
Yeah, Cherish Andrews also stays crushing it. She wins like 17 tournaments a year as well. Yeah, women, you love seeing them in the game, being represented at a low rate, unfortunately, and we always hope to get more women playing and more representation.
Yeah, and shout out to one of my favorite women poker players, Kyna England, my co-host on the MSPT podcast presented by Poker News. You can check that out. Former co-host here on the Poker News podcast. We might have to get her back in studio one of these points. She didn't do much in poker this year, but she sure did on slot machines because she had like that 233,000 hit at the Venetian.
Oh, so. That girl's spinning reels. That's crazy. It's so sick. She won a couple other ones too, right?
Yeah, she's been doing good in the slot games. So, but that could change too, right? That's going to be impacted by the tax bill that we just talked about because it's not limited to just poker.
Wait, slots are affected by that too? I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking sports betting and all that other stuff. Yeah, slots are dead, right?
I mean, if it does apply to slots, don't quote me on that either. I would assume, it's gambling losses. So,
yeah, what's going on? That doesn't. This is crazy.
It's yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
It doesn't make any sense. Every other country is like, yeah, yeah. It's good stuff, man.
Well, let's talk about the story number 6, which was, we've talked about it many times on the podcast over the course of 2025, and that is the saga of Tom Goldstein, the attorney, the Supreme Court arguer attorney who is indicted over $1 million poker games. Like, this has been an ongoing saga about this very prestigious person in the law world. Kind of gets in the degen, befriends Dan Bilzerian, and ends up losing millions. There's money laundering charges. This timeline stems from all the way into January, all the way into October was the last update where a judge denied Goldstein's motion to suppress statements that he had a duffel bag of cash he brought into the U.S. back in 2018. To me, Mike, this is the stuff of movies. Like, this is going to be made into a movie one day.
Yeah. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and where there's Dan Bilzerian, there's indictments. What can you do?
This one will be interesting because, like, I don't know Tom Goldstein, but everything I've read about him, like, he's pretty brilliant when it comes to the legal maneuvering, if you will. So, given that in the current state of political affairs,
this guy sounds dumb as a motherfucker. He's like, what is this duffel bag? Hey, who knows? It could be anything in there. It's a bag of bricks. Dude, he brought a bag of duffel bag. Come on, man. This entire time you've been thinking he's a brilliant guy. I've been thinking he's like a bumbling fool.
I mean, we'll see, I guess. I won't be surprised if he somehow escapes these charges, but we'll have to wait and see in 2026 how this one plays out. Story number 5, we're making the top half now, was Ossi Ketola, aka Monarch. He had some record-breaking heads-up poker matches throughout the year against, Alex Foxen was one, Kyan Mockery was another, Dan Jungleman Cates. These were many 7-figure swings back and forth, most of them taking place at Triton events. We had the debate in the past episode is, do these count as the biggest ever cash game hands because they're essentially sit and goes as well? We don't have to get into that debate, but there's no denying that these heads up matches were a big story in 2025, right, Mike?
I mean, yeah, they were a big story in that they were covered on YouTube and watched by people, but in my mind, these were like novelty events where some rich dude who got his money through very, very mischievous, scammy ways torches on fire to a bunch of poker professionals because he's a egomaniac who thinks that he's good at poker. And he was not. And he played a bunch of heads-up matches and then said a bunch of racist stuff on Twitter and got banned.
That's you summed it up nicely. I do think this story should be lower on the list, like a number 10 instead of up where it's at. But again, I don't control the.
I'm more of an honorable mention guy for this story.
Sure. Well, there was a record-breaking 11 million pot. You can see that replay was against Alex Foxen. That is on the Poker News article. You can see all the results there as well from these matches involving a Monarch. Let's go to story number 4. This was kind of we're going to call it the return of poker villains, and basically 2 of them, Martin Cabral, William Kassouf. We talked about them quite a bit this year. Mike, are you a fan of these 2 poker villains in 2025?
No, Kassouf is like the nut low. Get that guy out of here. You know what I mean? Like, the only reason anybody watches him to hate on him, nobody's enjoying. He's just annoying. He's a weird angle shooty, kind of scummy guy. That's one of the things that I agree with the WSP on is get that guy out of here. As far as Cabral, I actually feel the same kind of. I think that he's more entertaining than Kassouf. I think that they're 2 separate ends of the spectrum where Cabral has some entertainment value, and when you're at the table near Cabral, it's hilarious. You're going to see all the players get angry, and he's jumping around, running around, doing crazy stuff. When you're at the table with Cabral, it's a nightmare. He's ruining the game, and you could talk to anybody who plays with him. Nobody's enjoying it. He's not making the game better for anybody. He's pushing the lines. He's making it seem like he might be cheating you here and there. He's on the playground with his pants down and stuff. Nobody knows what that's about. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge Cabral guy. I get that he gets the clicks. I get that he gets the people watching, and that's good. And sometimes I have been entertained by him, but I think overall he's really his shtick has gone. I'm over it. I'm over it now. You know what I mean? If I just hear one more person go Casino Royale, or I have to hear someone what is the other thing? Not like that. I got to hear that everywhere I go. Maybe I'm a curmudgeon, but get him out of here.
I did watch Martin Cabral on commentary at the WSOP Super Main event, and it was interesting and entertaining for a while, but then, like you said, it just got old. And you even seen it like in Daniel Negreanu's vlogs from the WSOP Paradise. There's one in particular that jumped into my mind where like he was literally annoyed just to no end by Martin Cabral. And so like, I don't know, I like him in little doses, if you will, but I think there was a little too much in 2025. As for Will Kassouf, definitely the antics I was not a fan of over the summer. I did sit down with him at WPT Cyprus on the Poker News podcast, and we did chat about that and more. And it's like when I have him one-on-one, I don't mind Will Kassouf, actually. Like, I think I get him and I understand him better and I like him as an individual. But then when you get him on the main stage and he does his antics, not a fan of that. So,
but if you have him one-on-one, he might reach over and steal your money at the roulette table, right?
Well played.
Get this guy out of here, like he's just a scumbag in my mind.
I do tend to like villains in general, like on reality TV, like on Survivor. I do like villains. I think it makes it more interesting. We'll have to wait and see what 2026 brings, whether there's new villains or something.
Who is Doug Polk's villain? Luke Schwartz, is that right? Jake Schwartz, yeah. Luke Schwartz, right?
Luke Schwartz, yeah.
Yeah. I like him as a villain. You know what I mean? That's the type of villain I like. Old school Phil Hellmuth, Devilfish. Those are the villains I like to watch, Tony G. He's not making the game all crazy, and then at the end of it, he's hitting you with the 1-2 buckle my shoe, That's what I'm looking for. I don't want in the middle of the game to my villain to be trying to pretend like there's marks on my cards and leaning over staring at them,
Devilfish. He was the reason I got into poker when he was on the WPT broadcast in Tunica, defeated Phil Ivey heads up. He had those knuckle dusters, slick back hair and the glasses. Rest in peace to Devilfish, Poker Hall of Famer. Let's go to story number 3, Mike, and that is the Millionaire Maker controversy at the 2025 WSOP. This is an article I actually wrote for Poker News in the top 10 stories. You can go check that out right now. So I got to go back and deep dive into that. Now, if you remember, this is the $1,500 Millie Maker. Jesse Yaganuma, James Carroll, they get heads up. Carroll has a big chip lead. Jesse Yaganuma had qualified as part of this promotion, the Gold Rush promotion from Club WPT, where if he wins a certain bracelet in certain events, he would get a $1 million bonus. This was one of those events. The allegations of chip dumping so that he could win came about. He did end up winning it. There was an investigation. I won't go into all the details, the minutia of it. You can read the article if you want. Ultimately, no bracelet was awarded, but they did split the prize money, and Yaganuma was awarded the $1 million bonus. But they were both made kind of pariahs of the poker world, at least at the WSOP. I know, Mike, you're a big proponent of, come on, guys, like, take it a little easier on them. They should be able to play at the WSOP.
But you put them in an impossible position where $1 million is up for grabs, and they would be fools not to take it. It's just an unwinnable situation for them, and you got to look at it as the other operators versus you as WSOP. WSOP versus WPT in this situation. The players just got involved in an unwinnable situation where if they didn't, let's say Jesse lost. Everyone would be shitting on him so hard. Like, what are you, stupid? You guys got to collude. What are you doing? You did. What are you, dumb? Like, that's literally what would have happened. Everyone would have been like, dog, what are you guys doing? But now it goes that way, and everyone's on their high horse talking about, well, if it was me, I wouldn't have. It's $1 million, dude. $1 million cash. The average salary in America is like $80,000. You're talking about 15 years of work just for you and your buddy to chop a tournament that doesn't affect anybody else. They didn't cheat anyone beforehand. I'm getting a little heated about this, so I'm gonna let it drop. But you know what I'm saying. The people know.
I do, and I think it was made all the worse just a few weeks ago at the WSOP Paradise on 2 accounts. Right, we actually had an event Triton event, but it was a WSOP bracelet event that was chopped, officially chopped. And the WSOP doesn't allow that during the summers, right? So there's a little bit of hypocrisy there, I think, in the eyes of some poker fans and players. And then you also had Ren Lin, who received an indefinite ban just I don't know, a month or two ago. Didn't even miss any events, and then he's welcome back in the Bahamas all of a sudden. Well, you have Jesse and James, who are still apparently indefinitely banned from the WSOP. Seems again a bit hypocritical, and the optics on that, Mike, just are shit.
What's worse, two guys chopped the tournament heads up in a tournament where you weren't allowed to chop, so they did it in a way with the only way they could, where you just had one guy give the guy the rest of the chips, and then they chop it up, and everyone knew they were chopping. Or a guy ghosted somebody, aka he literally saw another person's hands as they were happening and gave the decisions, which is what Ren Lin did. He gave the decisions. He gave his opinion on hands while they were happening at a $10,000 GG Millions final table on GG Poker Online. He gave those while they were occurring. What's worse, that or chopping a tournament? And I think it's very obvious that the Ren Lin one is miles worse, at least in my opinion. And you got a guy who they suspended both of them indefinitely. He's already back for paradise. How does that make any sense? Doesn't make any to me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, given that, look, I would say maybe make Jesse and James, who are still out there grinding, they're playing WPTs and other events. They're, by all accounts, good guys. Mike, you laid out the situation of what happened and why they did it. So maybe just make them sit out WSOP events, WSOP Europe's coming up in the spring or whatever, and then summer rolls around and let them back in. I think, their peers, if you will, would support that. The average poker player might take a different stance on it, but after what just happened with Ren Lin, it's, how can you not at least revisit it at least a little bit? So, regardless, they did make their money. Jesse and James, I'm sure, are very happy out there living their best lives and, 7 figures richer, at least from the WSOP payouts, plus that $1 million from Club WPT Gold, whatever went on there. But definitely a big story and a big controversy from the summer. And another big controversy was our number 2 story, and this was the federal indictment that came down against, there was actually 31 people arrested, but foremost among them was Chauncey Billups, the head coach of the NBA's Portland Trail Blazers. Him and other NBA stars allegedly rigged poker games that involved the mafia. This is something Matt Berkey called out on Only Friends podcast back in 2023, but it wasn't mainstream until this indictment dropped. I'm not a big basketball guy, Mike, but we talked about this on past episodes. This is a big name, and this is going to be a story that continues at least into 2026, probably 2027 and beyond. But how big was this Chauncey Billups blow up?
It's pretty big. It's pretty crazy and mainstream news. Like Chauncey Billups involved in sports betting. Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier involved in sports betting and poker, illegal poker games in New York where there's X-rays in the table. It's pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, and then there was another separate NBA scandal that wasn't associated with that indictment, but one that involved former Washington Wizard star Gilbert Arenas. He was allegedly involved in a illegal private poker game in the LA area. He claims he was just renting it out to somebody else, but he is, involved in this legal mess too. So, I don't know. You got to beware in these games. Like when Matt Berkey mentioned he was invited to one of the games, he knew something was up. He said, no, thank you. And it's the shady side of poker. It does exist as much as we try to make it mainstream and legitimate. This side of it exists. And this was just a huge black eye for poker in 2025.
Yeah, it's not great news for poker, but it just shows that if you're playing a game underground, that the feds might run up on you, because why not, right?
And if it seems too good to be true, you get to play with some sports stars or celebrities, maybe second guess it or at least question it a little bit before you sit down. Let's end the top 10 stories of 2025 on a positive note, Mike, because the number 1 story is certainly that. It is the number 1 story, according to Poker News, Michael Mizrachi in his incredible summer. Look, the grinder has been around poker for a very long time, but in 2025, it was just remarkable what he accomplished. He won the 50K Poker Players Championship for a fourth time. That in itself is quite amazing, right? But then you have him go into the main event and make the final table for the second time. He did it back in 2010, but ended up winning it in epic fashion for $10 million. They snap induct him into the Poker Hall of Fame right afterwards. And then you just have Mizrachi now, a global superstar. He's been traveling around the world. He was at WSOP Paradise doing daily vlogs. I don't know, Mike, did you enjoy the Grinders 2025 as much as I did?
Yeah, of course. Maybe not as much as you did. You got to go to Paradise with him and go do some slot stuff. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And it shows you that he's the number one story of the year. He gets snap inducted into the Hall of Fame and still doesn't win Player of the Summer, Player of the Year. Doesn't really make much sense to me. I think that formula is very incorrect. If a situation like this can happen, he can't win Player of the Year. And my opinion on that has evolved from I'm pretty sure he should have won to now I'm at the point where looking back on it, it's outlandish that he didn't win, actually. Like, he won the two biggest events of the year. It's never been done before. It's the number one story of the year, and he didn't win Player of the Summer. I mean, I don't know. I think he definitely should have won that. And what an amazing summer from the Grinder.
Yeah, and not to take away from Sean Deeb winning it. Sean Deeb did win it by the rules and the formula. So,
Of course.
there's nothing wrong there. But I take your point, and I do think that there needs to be some sort of revision within the Player of the Year formula. And maybe there will be this year now that the WSOP has announced that there will actually be a prize pool for Player of the Year and that it will spread across WSOP Europe in the spring, WSOP in Vegas during the summer, and WSOP Paradise in the Bahamas in the winter. So we'll have to wait and see.
I don't think so. I think that they're going to, I think Player of the Year is, and this is, I don't know, it's my opinion, but I think a lot of people share it, is that it's kind of like the boys club where there's like 10 of them who can possibly win it, and they're ones making the rules, and they're the ones making the criteria, and it makes it so that the bigger buy-ins count more instead of the bigger fields where everybody's playing. So that's the reason why you got a situation where the guy who won the main event in the PPC doesn't win Player of the Year. So I think we've got to revise it in some way. Maybe there needs to be a vote of some sort. Maybe I don't know how to do it, but something's got to change, because while Sean Deeb had an amazing summer amongst an amazing career of summers from him, I think it was very obvious that the Grinders was the story of not only the summer but of the year, and he should have won Player of the Year.
As former two-time WSOP.com online Player of the Year, do you know where that stands this year? And I don't think
doesn't exist.
I've heard anything.
Maybe they're going to bring it back now that I suck, But no, they didn't have any plans to do it. I know they have a circuit leaderboard now. Other than that, I don't know. I don't really play as much on WSOP.com as I used to.
Yeah. You mentioned I got to go to the Bahamas, Atlantis, in October for the World Tournament of Slots, where the Grinder and his Mama Grinder, were down there as special guests. Mizrachi joined me as a special co-host of the Poker News podcast. Definitely check out that episode. So that was a lot of fun. And I learned that he has a son who is like 21, 22. I don't even know. Paul Mizrachi. He was down at WSOP Paradise playing. It just blew my mind a little bit, right? Like, because the Grinder is, in my eyes, young, and he still is. He's my age. But to have a grown son who's out there grinding, it just kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
We'll have to wait and see. I'd love to see it. And we kind of joked about it, Helmuth's sons are playing right now. You got the Grinder son. I know Will the Thrill, his son was playing. There's a bunch of other ones like that. These kids have grown up. They're playing poker, following in their father's footsteps. And there's got to be something that can be done with that, right? Like some sort of tag team special event. I don't know, but I know I'd like to see it. Yeah,
same. That'd be cool.
All right, Mike, that's going to do it. That was the top 10 stories. If you have any other stories you think should make the list, reach out, let us know. We will be back every week throughout 2026 with brand new episodes of the Poker News podcast every Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. We'll probably do some bonus episodes, and I don't know what we're going to do for the summer, but I know that we are getting close to that magical 1000th episode, and I would love to find a way to celebrate that during the 2026 WSOP in Vegas, Mike. We might have to supercharge some episodes to get there, but how cool would that be? 1,000 episodes.
They call me the supercharger, so shouldn't be a problem.
As I mentioned, Ben Ludlow will be back next week. I am Chad Holloway. Mike Holtz, thank you for all the support throughout 2025. We will be back next week. And until then, we'll keep a seat open for you.